Two more goals for Martin Ødegaard. He's up to 14 in the Premier League now this season in the 3-1 win against Chelsea. Here is the Arsenal skipper.
Well, Martin, speaking to you before the match, there was a desire to give a proper Arsenal performance. Do you feel like you delivered what you wanted to?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially the first half was brilliant. We came out and we showed a different spirit, different team to last time, basically. So yeah, I'm very happy with the first half, and then second half is a bit messy, I would say. But 3 points and a good win for us. So we needed this one to get back a bit.
So was that City game on your mind then, going out there and putting that right?
Yeah, of course. I think everyone was so hurt, after the game, and we used this anger and the disappointment to get into this game and really bounce back, and I thought we did that, especially in the first half.
What caused the hurt? Obviously, partly it's giving them the initiative in the title race, but also did you feel like you just, going back to that first question, you weren't yourselves? Yeah,
exactly. I think you can lose games, but the way we lost, and as you say, we didn't really play our game and we weren't ourselves. So I think that's the most painful, and that's why we wanted to show a different side today, and I think we all did that, so very happy.
You definitely did. Sometimes a team needs their captain. Was that a big part of your thinking? Don't look at anyone else. You're the skipper, step up.
Yeah, I just try to help the team, This year I've been scoring more goals, so of course very happy to help the team, and granted with 2 good balls there, so it's just to be in the right areas, and then it's easier.
I was just going to say big credit to Granit. Is that training ground routine, and what are you thinking with your movements? Because for both of them really, from a Chelsea perspective, they probably think they've got you in a little duck inside and you've got yourself that yard.
Yeah, I just try to be in the right areas. I think when the ball is on the left, it's a bit tricky sometimes when you have right-footed players, but as soon as I see Granit attack the space there, I know he's always going to put it in, so it's just about being there in the right areas and then try to hit the goal.
First goal in particular give you a lot of satisfaction. It's a lovely finish.
Yeah, it was a good finish, and I think we needed this goal, to really get the momentum of the game, and after this we controlled everything, so yeah, it was good.
Why was the second half messy?
I think we didn't keep the ball enough. They went a bit more direct, and after the duels we didn't keep the ball good enough, and then it's a bit chaotic, but in the end I win.
Lastly, you're top again, still there for you.
Yeah, we have to fight, we have to keep going. We'll believe until the end, we'll fight until the end, and that's what we're going to do. Have to look for the next one, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, you're player of the match.
Thank you.
Well played.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well done, Martin.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yes, and as I mentioned, that is 14 Premier League goals for the season now for Martin Ødegaard. In Premier League history for Arsenal in central midfield, only Cesc Fabregas has ever scored more than that, and he got 15. That's some season on a personal level, first of all, and he had a very good first half as well.
Yeah,
tonight.
he did. Yeah, he's somebody that I was delighted. I couldn't believe we got him on loan in the first place. And when he came back, if we could get him again, because his pedigree, what he's capable of, his ability, the fact that he's captain now. And it's not like he's been at the club for many years, but being captain and leading by example, and chipping in with that many goals, he's been unbelievable. I think he's been player of the season, if I'm going to be totally honest. William Saliba was on that track, but obviously being injured. But Ødegaard's consistency for the whole season has been absolutely tremendous for us.
Did you think he had that many goals in him in that position in this Arsenal team?
I think the system that they've come upon this year has allowed him to go much higher up the pitch. That's why Zinchenko plays in there. They've copied City a little bit. Zinchenko's come into that midfield, so it releases a midfield player, and he goes and gets marked by centre backs and then drifts into nice little pockets. Yeah. I felt he was much deeper, and let's face it, he's had a fantastic season. That's a great return. What about the assists? He's probably got a lot of assists as well as the goals he scored, but he was playing much deeper in the pitch. I think this is suiting him to just drift into those little pockets. The system has helped him no end. It really has. But the one thing he has done, he's produced. Yep. He's produced what the manager wants in that position. And he had an off day against City. That can happen to anyone. But I think he's been really consistent. I think he's taken the armband as captain and responded. Some people that can happen to, and you start playing other people's game for them, bossing people around. No, he's just responded within himself as to go and be an example the way he plays. So all round, I think he's been the best player, as Ian said, for Arsenal this season, the most consistent. And a place of the pitch where it's tough to be consistent. When you're further and you go up the pitch, it's harder to play up there.
And whilst Chelsea didn't help themselves, he did ghost into that area.
Yeah, he did
a couple of times for those goals, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And like I say, when you look at, we picked up on the fact that Zinchenko, there's no pressure on him. So, you know, when you're giving players of that calibre, that kind of time, you know, you're going to get look again, no pressure, and then brilliantly picked out by Granit Xhaka there, and then that's a lovely finish. You know, he's got the power on it. Like Gaffer, you highlighted this, how Zinchenko just got himself on the line.
Yeah, it didn't look so good inside. No. But he read the situation and pulled away. You see in there Kovacic that drifting in. You know, Chelsea are loose. They've been loose in the early part of the game. But this is all about, look at that clever little bit of movement. Yeah. It really was. And what a lovely finish. It's not an easy. It looks easy because the pitch is lovely. Look, the ball coming at pace as well. Across your body, you've got to stay over the top of it.
Yeah, he's done well there.
And he beats him for pace. As you say, the power's already on the ball. Yeah. He's only got to guide it. And I think he beats Kepa through pace rather than placement.
And almost a carbon copy for his second goal. Chelsea didn't learn their lesson.
Well, they didn't, and that's the mode Chelsea were in. Again, you look at Zinchenko, he might as well go in and try and challenge him. But every single player at the moment who picks the ball up, they've got time to get their foot, get on the ball. Look at this, have a look. You know, there again, look at Xhaka, time, space, and then Ødegaard just walks off of Raheem Sterling there. You know, because he gets himself in a position where who's picking him up? You know, I'm sort of Silva has a look at him. Sterling thinks who's picking him up. He's just got himself off the back of Sterling. Now Sterling can't see him, and as soon as Sterling turns round, he's gone. Bam, he's gone into the space, and that's all you need. That's enough. That's enough time.
And it's a sort of ball, really. You're looking at, there's blue shirts there. There's 4 blue shirts there. You're thinking one blue shirt's going to step out and intercept that. But it doesn't. It's perfectly weighted. And again, he hasn't tried. The key to that, he hasn't tried to lambast it. He hasn't tried to get his laces through it. It's coming across his body. He knows the pace is already on the ball, and he's just guided it. It looks like a miss it, but he's just guided it into that target. Corner. It was really two really acute finishes.
Yeah, and the third one, again, as far as Chelsea were concerned, all too easy for Arsenal.
Well, when you look at the build-up, again, you know, poor clearance, that should have been a left-foot clearance there, but once it comes back out to Ben White, Raheem Sterling's got to get out there. He doesn't look, he's got time to look inside, get his leg up, get his head up, I should say, and then, you know, Granit Xhaka's on the back post on his own. You've got the bodies in there, but it's a shambles for Chelsea. You know, look how slow. Look at Fofana. He's just in there. He came out very slowly. He's at the back. He's kept everybody on side almost, and then now it's just a case of can it drop to an Arsenal player? But just poor defending in general. You know, they're all over the place. Look at them, and then bam, Jesus is there to just tuck it away. But that was enough for Chelsea and the way they played. That performance in the first half, they didn't deserve anything out of the game when they didn't get anything.
Arsenal have come out the traps really quick. And it was at a stage when Chelsea looked very fragile as a defensive unit. Whether the ball was at the back, when Arsenal were trying to build through, they didn't press. Arsenal got in behind the 3 midfield players too easily, hence the 2 goals where they've come from. And then in that last line of defence, there was like a panic there. Yeah. They looked fragile. They didn't look like they were on their toes. They didn't look like they wanted to mark properly. You know, and that can't happen. They're the sort of things that every single game at this level, you've got to be at it. You've got to be at that. And if you do that job, you might get a draw out the game. You might not do enough with the ball or whatever to actually win the game, but you've got to be in the game. You've got to stay in the game, particularly as we know Arsenal come out of the traps pretty quick at home. And they weren't there. They weren't there ready to take them punches.
Well, the thing is as well, you say they come out of the traps as well. We've seen that Arsenal can start slowly depending on what kind of pressure you put on them. And I thought that Chelsea would have put them under pressure, but their press wasn't right because they weren't going as a team to press Arsenal to try and win the ball in their final third. And so Arsenal were very comfortable, you know, so they could get the ball out from the back into the midfield, up to the front men, and they could put pressure on Chelsea because Chelsea weren't tight enough on them. And so if you can do that, then you're going to create the chances, and then Arsenal did punish them when they create the chances.
No, listen, Chelsea have got a lot of work to do between now and the end of the season, but also in the summer, they've got to shift a lot of people out. They've got to get a manager in there that knows the way that they're going to play with the personnel that he's got. And you know, Arsenal's still in the hunt. They've.
I was going to come to that. Yeah,
handed it over to City. All right, you've got two games in hand. Yeah. What are you going to do about it? I think City have got the fixtures that I think there's enough for them to actually go on and win it. But you never know in this league. Andy said in commentary, anything happens in it. It's such a tough league. And I think when I think back about the Arsenal scenario, right, when they went out of Europa, that's when I thought they're going to win this year. They'll go out of Europa. They're all disappointed, but I'm thinking, you know what? That could be a reason for you to go on and win it. And I think that's why it's really double sort of disappointing if they don't go on and win it, because they had a real opportunity there. They would have loved to have gone in and won that trophy, of course. But when they went out of it, I thought, wow, they've got everything going their way at the moment. But unless you're at it, like I'm saying, Chelsea have not been at it, every single game in this league, you get found out.
And you see teams like Southampton came to the Emirates, and this is what's happening now. If I'm a team getting ready to play Chelsea, I'm going for it, because they are fragile. They're not organised. They're not together. You know, I don't know what system they're playing at the moment. You know, it's a team that are, you know, if it is Pochettino that's going in there, then, you know, this is the perfect time for him, because he could go in and he can really negotiate himself control, because he's going to need to get control, because we know he likes young, impressionable players. They'll play a kind of a pressing game, and he's got the tools there. They're going to need to sort that out, like the gaffer said. They're going to need to sort that out, the summer, the manager, whatever it is. But they're going to need to do that very, very quickly.
Just getting back to Arsenal, I mean, who knows what the 2 games against Real Madrid is going to take out of City. But all Arsenal can do is keep doing their job as they've done tonight and just ask them a question.
That's all it is, Steve. You just ask the question. Like I said, I'm delighted with that performance tonight. Just don't fizzle out. That's what I want. They've played too well this season, got themselves in such a great position to not just fizzle out just because you're in Champions League now. You've done that, and that's what the goal was at the start of the season. But finish strong, because you never know what could happen.
And when you look at the 4 games left for your former club, obviously the next one is the most difficult. Only one team have won at St James's all season. In fact, 2 since Eddie Howe took the job. Yeah,
but the thing is Newcastle having a great season themselves, and they'll see Arsenal coming there as a team that they have to beat. I'm sure it's going to be a tough game, but I'm quite confident that we'll go up there with this win, knowing that we can cause them problems just like they can, because some of the lapses we had in the second half that Martin Ødegaard was talking about, I don't think we can afford to do that at Newcastle. Chelsea were nowhere near it. Newcastle will be. So we need to go there with an attitude of we must win again.
Yeah, and you look at them games, what is it, 9 games in that short period. It could be 10 if they get to the final of the Champions League. And if they get a couple of injuries, City, you know, they've got a squad that can handle injuries, of course. But, you know, if they just miss out on one of those, maybe their sights might be on Europe. You know, you never know. I do believe they'll win the league, and I think they'll go on and win Champions League myself. Whatever happens in the Manchester final, I don't know. That could be the one they get tripped up on. But that's a hell of a lot of games in a short period of time. It really is. I'm not sure they're going to win every single game. I really don't. But
it's as long as they lose the Premier League games.
But if Arsenal keep winning, then at least that's in their mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's all Arsenal can do. You know, this is why, you know, if it doesn't happen, you know, then you look back at those 3 games with those 7 points that Arsenal maybe could have had, one you know, against, even if you win you draw the Liverpool game, win the other 2, you know, that's 7 points. You know, 7 points now with the 2 games in hand, you're still in front with them having 9 games. But we can't look back on that now. The fact is that all we can do is win the games. I thought this would have been a tough one, but it wasn't. We made it easy, and you just got to go to the next one now.
Well,
it was because I think that for a young side and a young team that's really trying to hold off a juggernaut like Manchester City, you know, the stick that they got for free draws, you know, not losses, free draws. You know, we know that Manchester City are so strong in at this stage of the season. And I think that they've done well to come back, stay in it, and play a Chelsea side that, yes, they weren't very good tonight, but they really put them away. They put them away, so the mentality's strong, and all they can do, and you can hear it from them now, is just to continue to just take the next game and try and win those next games.
And that mentality, that impressed you tonight? Did you have any doubts that Arsenal would show that?
No, I think they were up for the game, and rightly so. They've hit a bit of a wall, but that's the way to respond. With the way they played with the ball that first half, you know, it was not so much how we're going to defend. I think it was a very aggressive way. Mikel would have said, come on, we're better than we have been the last 4 games. Let's go and play. We're playing a fragile team here. Let's see if they are really got a soft centre. They found out that Chelsea have got a soft centre, and they went for the throat. I like the fact that they managed the game pretty well. They knew for 60 minutes they were in control of that game. They slowed the game down. They knew that Chelsea were throwing bodies forward. They tracked people back and they defended in numbers. So there's different ways to win a football match. You haven't got in this league. You can't dictate for 90 minutes plus with the ball and play your open football. So I think they're learning. They're a team that are learning. And yes, they've got to go and win the 4 games. They've got to go and win all 4 games, because if City do actually trip up and they haven't done their own business, my word, they'll be upset with themselves, won't they? So they've got to go and get their business done with the 4 matches. Not easy, Newcastle and Brighton particularly. But, I still think City, obviously, with the games in hand, have got to be favourites.
Where the Arsenal manager has been reflecting on a return to winning ways. Here he is, Mikel Arteta.
Mikel, congratulations. It was a terrific first half performance. You'd be absolutely delighted with that.
Yeah, the first 60 minutes I thought that the team played really well. We've been discussing that we need to be us, and I saw everything that I want to see from our team. Full commitment, a lot of energy, quality, speed, movement, 2 beautiful goals. And we connected with our crowd and created an incredible atmosphere again, and the right to win the game.
Given the last 4 games, just to touch on that atmosphere thing, it really felt from the very first kick of the game that these fans still are right behind you, right with you, and believe what you're saying, which is this isn't over. There's twists and turns and stuff is going to happen. They've been like this throughout the season, and they've been incredibly supportive with us, and what they've done today with the team shows another level of commitment again, and it's there. We wanted to earn the right to be top of the league tonight again. We are. And we have to be happy with where we are, but not accepting, because it's not end up, and we want to achieve that. You do have a few injuries, and obviously Saliba is out, and Gabriel had a kind of recurring issue very early. But what's your thoughts about what his injury may be? I don't know. He could not carry on. He tried for another 10-15 minutes. He was struggling, so obviously we have to assess him. It's not common on Gabi to leave that pitch, but he wasn't comfortable. Martin Odegaard first up. I mean, his first goal is just brilliant. His second's pretty good as well. But what a finish. That's what we demand him, to be more effective in the final third and having more influence on winning matches. And he's done, I think, his 14 goals already this season, with his a big mark for an attacking midfielder, and his contribution to the team, his leadership, his skills, and I'm really pleased with him. I don't know if you're aware of it, but one negative is that Mudryk in the last moments of the game was having a laser shone at him from the crowd, which is obviously, nobody needs that, do they? No, and if something happened, obviously we will review what happened in the match and take action.
Well, he says that they connected with the crowd again, and after the frustration of the last few weeks, that was pretty pivotal tonight.
Well, when Mikel took over right from the off, from the time he came, he said that's one thing he wants to do. He wants to get the connection, the fans and the players back. They've worked very hard on that, behind the scenes as well, in getting the fans and getting the Ashburton army now. We've got a load of young people now who meet up before. They come in, they stand behind that goal at the clock end, and they sing all through the game. And it's kind of got the crowd together. Everybody's feeling, and obviously having the season that we're having from the start, that kind of galvanises everything, and that's just kicked on, and it's got better and better with the song, the North London song as well. That's another thing. Just before the start of the game, we've got that "You Never Walk Alone" song. It's all galvanised everything, and that is something that has been unbelievable for us this season.
So what you're saying is the Highbury Library is...
The Highbury Library's gone.
It's finished.
Yeah, it's gone.
No, because there would have been fans coming into that stadium tonight hoping, but also wondering what the reaction was going to be like after the Etihad. Yeah,
there'd have been a little bit of a doubt, but the team didn't doubt. The manager didn't doubt. They were very confident in the way they went into that game. When you're playing Chelsea at the moment, everyone keeps saying they're such a good individual. They could click one given game. That hasn't happened yet. But they can. They've got so many good players that it's a bigger picture for them. It's a bit long for next season. But no, Arsenal, I think they're in a position now where if they've got something to strengthen on, because they've got a system. Now, when you've got a system, a little bit like Brighton recruitment, you've got a system, you've got a style of play they've found. Chelsea haven't got a style of play. Even when Graham Potter, he still didn't know what his best team was, what system was the number one system. Of course you adjust different games during a game or a different opponent. But they've got a system. They play this they've decided to put the left back in there, Zinchenko, then allow the Odegaard to go and play, and Xhaka at the moment. So now they can identify. who do we go and get to the recruitment to go and add to that to make it even better? Chelsea at the moment, you haven't got that at all. Man City have got a system. They know how to play. It's like clockwork. They just put the people in there and go, bang, he'll be brilliant. He might even take us to another level. Ireland, obviously, is one example. So there's teams that Liverpool had that system. That's gone. They're now having to do a rebuild. And this is what you look at every team like this, right the way through. Newcastle are finding their system. Yeah. Now they're going to, Eddie Howe will go and get players to fit that system. And hopefully what you're hoping is to improve it. So that's where Arsenal are sitting at the moment.
I think, you know what as well, Gaffer, you say that and you're bang on. When you look at Chelsea and the way they put this scattergun approach to the people they were signing, they just signed him and signed him and signed him. You know, and this is why Graham Potter, he's probably, his head was spinning with players who come in, what am I going to do with these players? And when, like the Gaffer rightly said, when you've got a system and you're able to put people into the system, they then come, they settle quicker simply because they know the system. They're the kind of player and the kind of attitude of what the team want, that they can fit into it without changing anything. But like, again, when you do this scattergun approach, I remember Man United were doing it not long ago. And again, we didn't know what their system was. You know, they were just playing and we didn't know what they were doing. Now we're starting to see a little bit more of a formation and a system with Man United. You can't just do that. You can't just buy, put them in and say, go on, manager, get on with that. And that is what we're fighting. That's what we're seeing with Chelsea now, and that's why they need to get that manager in sooner rather than later.
Another difficult, uncomfortable night for Frank Lampard since he's returned for his second spell. 6 defeats in a row and just 2 goals scored. In fact, Frank Lampard, as a manager now, 14 defeats in his last 15 in the hot seat. Let's see what he thinks about this particular defeat at the Emirates.
Well, Frank, better second half, but ultimately another tough night. What did you make of it?
Yeah, performance first half nowhere near good enough. Too nice to play against in all aspects, too passive defensively. The Lions weren't coming up, giving them the space they want. Too from position in possession, not, playing balls over their press, second balls, all the things that make you a nice team to play against, we did. Hence, a good team can go 3-0 up against you. The second half was better. But, of course, the results relatively confirmed by them.
I mean, does that really hurt you to say? Because one thing I think of with your Chelsea teams, no one would ever finish a game against them and think, that was nice.
Oh, I don't know about my Chelsea teams.
Any Chelsea team, I suppose.
Yeah, Chelsea's been a big success for 20 years or whatever it is in terms of domestically and with Champions Leagues. But at the moment, we're not in that position. And in the time I've been here, it's pretty evident and clear for me to see behind the scenes, and I say the training ground reasons why. The idea, as I say, if you're going to be a nice team to play against, we want to play short passes all the time and back on ourselves and not look up to play a forward pass, and at the top end of the pitch not have responsibility to hold and run behind and do some things that we did do in the second half, then it doesn't matter whether you come to Arsenal or anywhere in the Premier League. So, those things maybe are not things to change overnight. But we better get there quickly because we've got another game coming at the weekend and the game's come.
I think the default sometimes with supporters and from us in the media is when you see a first half like that, they're not trying hard enough, they don't care enough. Is that fair? Is that right?
Well, the passive nature of our game, you could attribute it to many things, and I think that's the easy go-to. They don't care enough. The players certainly care, but when you are... And I hate to say this, low on confidence, because tonight I don't want to say the low on confidence thing too much, because you're playing for Chelsea, there's a level of performance you have to do, and you can be low on confidence but still show a dynamic side to your game where things might not go for you, but as a collective, you're making contact off the ball with their good players, but making them feel hurried. We didn't, and all the things we spoke about before the game. So, whatever. Maybe it doesn't even matter what the core reason is, because the only thing that will get you out of it is working hard and understanding the things to do. And at the minute, we're a team that's a little bit conditioned in a way that makes it pretty nice to play against. And that's what a Chelsea team hasn't been in recent years, and that's what will have to change.
Where does the gap between the two teams that we saw tonight, where does that come from?
I don't know. It's... Maybe it was a different gap. It was the other way around for many years. And it's football. We have to just understand it now and not think about the gap. Think of ourselves and perform to a level, because I was asked a lot about the game, of the talent in the room, and all these things in the dressing room. But we have to, from what this season tells you, from start to finish, by the way, because the goals that we've scored, the points that we've got is not a normal Chelsea season. We need to find the reasons quickly, and it won't be an overnight fix, because these things are not, in terms of going from the first half being so nice to play against that you're not competing enough in the game is something that really has to be corrected.
I guess that's what I'm getting at, really. You put those two teams on paper alongside each other and you think, well, there shouldn't really be any gap, but you look on the pitch and in the league table and it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of parts of that, aren't there? You could probably say this has been a team building for 2 or 3 years in the making, So they've added in pretty much every position, high-level players. They've had some great players come through. The 2 wingers are a great example of that. So they've done a lot in their sense, and then they work on an idea, on a way, and you can see some things become second nature, and the movements they want to make. So for me, it's impossible for me to come in here in 3 or 4 weeks and get all those things, because you have to work on the training ground, all that stuff. You can't just show a meeting and show the players the movements to make and go and do it. You have to repeat, work and repeat, and have to have buy-in. And if players don't do it, then they don't get in the team. And that's the process of a top club.
And 6 games in for you, do you feel almost like the more you search for answers, the further away you get?
No, the main answers for me are pretty simple. So we have to do them better, the basics, and do them better, and then we'll get some progress. At the minute, we're not getting progress because the results tell you that. So it's clear tonight for me. But the first half was nowhere near good enough as a performance for the players that we got and where we want to be as Chelsea. But it's a reality, and that's sort of come into. It's what we need to improve as a club. The idea of what we want to do and how aggressive we're going to be about it, because football moves quickly. We have to be aggressive about addressing what that first half looked like. I certainly, spoke to the players about it, but it's actions. It's not words.
And unfair, I know, to pick one individual, but you're striving for goals. You put Aubameyang in. Does he just look like a guy who hadn't played a lot of football, which he hasn't?
I'm not going to comment on individuals in the game. Because I'll talk about a collective, and it's a performance. Because I don't want, because I know what you said. I understand what you said about Chelsea fans to talk about players not caring. I don't believe that. They're lads that want to do well for this club, but they have to understand what that means and what that entails every day, from training on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a Saturday game, whatever day you want to talk about, how you prepare, how you maintain yourself, and those standards are clear. So it's a collective. If I'm going to talk about an individual, I'll maybe talk about Noni, who scores the goal, and I thought came in and played like he's been training, and that's a good example. So he'll get his more opportunities.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you.
Too nice to play against. 6 games back, 6 defeats. He says there's been no progress. Do you feel slightly sorry for him in the sort of hand he's been dealt since walking through the door and the time he's had?
Well, to a degree, but I think when he was offered to go in there and hold the hands of the club and get them to the end of the season, they were looking for, if not, they'd have kept Graham Potter. They were looking to up their game. They thought that Frank, being a legend at Chelsea, everyone would have been respectful of that and played for him. And really look to collectively come together. Like he's just said, he's only just said really what Ian and myself have been saying already about Chelsea's performance, not only in this game, but since he's come in, since Graham Potter took over. There's no system there. Graham didn't know his best team. I don't think Frank knows his best team at this moment in time. He keeps changing players around. We saw Aubameyang. I think Aubameyang, it's a tough one for him to come off. The way they played second half, he'd have probably done much, much better with a little bit of service. They put a lot more bodies forward, Chelsea. He probably would have ended up maybe scoring a goal. Who knows?
I understand what you're saying, though, Glenn, but away from systems, what he's saying there, we're not doing the basics right. Because supporters watching that say, how can a Chelsea player not give 100% or try or track or sprint?
That's exactly what I've just said earlier, Steve. We said it. He's come out and said it in a different way. He's manager at the moment. We can say it a little bit more ruthlessly. There was not 100% given. They weren't tracking down. It doesn't matter if you can't pass the ball well on the day or you've fluff a chance. Those things happen in life. But you have to give 100%. You have to lock on to play. There's no pattern of play there, defensively or with the ball. I don't see a system there, which is important. Because when teams are going through a slight problem, like that Chelsea are, they need a foundation to fall back on. Yep. You always need that foundation. There is no foundation there at Chelsea. There isn't. You see it with Arsenal. They've gone back to how they play. They have 4 poor results. Bang. They've gone back to how what's been good for them all season, that foundation. There isn't anything for Chelsea. Frank, for him to come in and do that between now and the end of the season was almost impossible. They were hoping, the owners were hoping that they're going to get the uplift, we'll get the crowd behind Frank, everything's going to be hunky-dory now, we're going to get some results, the confidence is going to be high. That group of players with a few wins under their belt are different animals completely. They'll go and beat teams left, right and centre, but they haven't had that win, they haven't had that change of attitude. But as Frank said, and as we're saying, you've got to give 100%. You've got to put yourself out. You've got to go out on a limb. OK, they're a better team than us. They outplayed us. They hit 2 fantastic goals and we lost 2-0. But we gave absolutely everything as a unit to try and win the ball back and then try and use it as best as we could. That's not happening at the moment.
OK, that's the manager's views. Here's the captain, Cesar Azpilicueta.
I mean, you've been at the club more than a decade now. Some good times, some tough times as well. Has it ever been harder than it is now?
No. In terms of points, in terms of goals scored, conceded, I think that's the worst run and I've been at the club. And, it's what it is. As I said before, as a players as well, we have to take that responsibility. We are the ones who are playing on the pitch. We have to turn things around because it's hard. I know, I know it's hard and for everybody, but it's what we have right now, and we have to overcome these difficult moments.
How far away do you think Chelsea actually are? I mean, you look out on the pitch today and in the league table and the gap looks quite big, but actually you put the 2 teams beside each other on a piece of paper and you think maybe, the gap shouldn't be that big.
Well, I'm going to answer with an experience that I had here. We lost against Arsenal with Antonio Conte. We lost 3-0, and it seemed that for us was over and that we could not win a trophy coming from a bad season, the one before, and we end up winning the Premier League. So we are Chelsea. We always show this direction. We always come back. For me to tell you that we are far or close, we have to show it on the pitch, and we have to do our work on the pitch. Off the pitch, we have a lot of things to work on, and hopefully we show that reaction in the short term with winning games until the end of the season, climbing the table, and then prepare the next season because we cannot be where we are.
He says players must take responsibility. I mean, Frank Lampard's just said we need action now, not words.
Yeah. You know what? So I find it really confusing when especially you know the team you're playing, you know how Arsenal are going to play. Arsenal ain't going to change the way they're going to play. They're going to try and play out from the back. We saw it. We saw the mistakes at the start of the show with people trying to play out from the back. And for Chelsea, with the player to not have a game plan to try and stop Arsenal and then, like I say, win the ball in areas where they can then go and do something. I find it baffling. To do that, you've got to do a lot of work on the training ground. They're talking about giving 100%. And what you need to do, like the gaffer said, is have a foundation to fall back on. So even if you're playing badly, everybody knows what they're doing. So it's more difficult to break through something like that. Then you build your confidence in it because you can see your mate doing his bit, gaffer, and then you think, yeah, let's keep going and stuff. But Chelsea haven't got any of that. It doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of work going on the training ground in who they're playing, how they're going to close down, and how they're going to then spring attacks. It doesn't seem like that's happening. And
is that why they're a team who've won, listen to this, 4 times in 24 Premier League games? Wow.
That's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. And we're talking about Chelsea Football Club with the success that they've had and the amount of quality players they've got. And they've got quality players out. And don't forget about Lukaku's a Chelsea player still. And he might come back, and he might not, but he might be the number 9 that they're actually looking for. So there's a hell of a lot of talent in that squad, and unless you've got the desire, unless you've got the foundation, as we're talking about, but the foundation means a system. The lads at Chelsea, they are confused. There's no clarity in the way they're playing. There really isn't.
The amount of times you saw Thiago Silva doing what?
Yeah, they're all disjointed. And the different units are disjointed. And I don't know whether... for looking outside in, it's difficult, but I'm looking as from a manager's head. Those units need to communicate with each other, the players. with the manager and the staff, but they're not talking. They're not actually.
Yeah.
They're not actually being a unit. You got strikers. You got your midfield, and you got the defence. That needs to be a team. So they need to communicate off the pitch as well as on about how they feel that unit is working. We want more of that from you, and then you say, well, you give us more of that. If you come tighter with us, we can then get closer to our strike. And then the strikers say, well, we feel as if we're on our own up there pressing. Then the manager understands a bit. I don't see that happening at Chelsea. Not at this moment in time. And that's how you get the foundation to a team that's going to either press. We always think about pressing high up the pitch, which I think Ian's right. Against Arsenal at the moment, that would have been a good tactic to press them higher. But you can actually drop into different areas as long as the distance becomes the same and press hard, really hard as a team collectively together from an angle or from a distance. It doesn't have to be at the top end of the pitch all the time, but as long as when you're pressing, you're going together. I wrote down here, I was looking at how many times, normally when you get a team to press, it's the third guy that wins the ball or forces the error, not the first. You're seeing people going pressing, and when the team do it well, like Liverpool at their very best, when Poch had at Tottenham pressing really well, it was 1, 2, 3, all together, bang, bang, bang. The third one normally wins the ball. And they're nowhere near that at the moment.
You know something, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and who comes in at Chelsea, because once they do get that going with the players they've got there, Chelsea will be back. You know, they've got a lot of quality, they'll be back.
Yeah. Well, in the short term, Arsenal came back tonight. They got the response. My thanks to Glenn and to Righty. The Gunners back on top of the pile for 24 hours at least. Over to City next tomorrow. I'll see you for that one. Take care.